You are listening to Attractive Relationships, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of relationships and communication. I'm Rico Armstrong, your host and advocate for attractive, happy relationships. In a world where relationships play a crucial role in our personal and professional lives, understanding how to communicate to connect with others is essential. Transform your communication skills to increase your social status, your social confidence, and help you gain the best relationships you can have. Welcome to Attractive Relationships. Do you ever get confused about how to say something difficult to somebody else? Maybe you are in a relationship and you've done something that you know the other person is not going to like. How do you say it? Maybe you're going on a date, and as a guy, you're going to meet somebody, and you're like, I don't know exactly what to say when I talk to this person. Maybe you're at work and you're a manager or you're a boss or some level like that, and you have to tell somebody that they did something that was wrong by the letter of the law. Maybe you have to write them up or you have to have a conversation. How do you do that in a way that attracts them and helps them to see your point of view without being mad at you for it? The reason why I think these situations become so difficult is one, we have a fear of things not coming out the way that we want and for things to be escalating, and then we try to preempt it. Like we almost say, I anticipate that there's going to be a fight of emotional battles. And so then we try to like prepare for that. But unwittingly, what ends up happening is we convey the idea that we expect them to react negatively. And oftentimes that's exactly what they do. So that's one reason, just a fear of what we assume is likely to happen. But another reason why these situations can be difficult is because if you try to Google how to approach these things, you will not find a shortage of different ways and tactics and rules on how to approach any topic in any given situation. You can go and say, how do I have a conversation while I date? And you'll see endless thoughts and ideas and rules. And then if you're, how do I manage as a leader and a boss? And you Google that, there's a plethora, a ton of options and of people saying do this or do that. How in the world can we keep track of it all? Here is the advice that I would give to you if it works for you. My advice is forget the rules. Do not follow the rules. All right, do not follow the rules. And here's why. If you are strictly trying to follow rules and comply with the rules, could likely be overwhelmed, and rules change over time. So the rules that you're following today may be outdated tomorrow, or the rules that you follow today may not be useful in the next situation that you go into. Rules change. And if you are focused on strictly trying to follow the rules, you could be finding yourself very frustrated and your techniques outdated. What I would suggest instead, follow the principles on which the rules are made. Principles do not change. For example, certain principles are just, they have to happen, like gravity. The law of gravity dictates certain things, and it has not changed since the time of this planet. If you work within the laws of communication, or what I more like to consider it a principle, you can then have the authority to shape whatever rule is necessary for the given situation. And here's the awesome part. Not only does that make you more authentic to you, it allows you this freedom to work within a frame and apply it to the specific situation, kind of like if you were molding clay. I've never molded clay, but I've seen it. You can take the principles and mold it into whatever you need to for that situation. Hey guys, real quick, I'd love to connect with you beyond these episodes, which is why I'm excited to tell you that Attractive Relationships recently started an exclusive newsletter just for you. You'll get behind the scenes stories and additional exclusive content to aid in building your personal attractive relationships. So if you'd like to be kept in the loop, simply click the link in the description below the episode. I'm going to give you the principles of communication. And the longer you listen to this podcast, we will talk about rules, but you'll be able to see how the rules apply to the principle. And you can shape this however you want. All right, these are the 3 C's, the 3 C's of communication. And then there are 2 other things that we want to avoid. But if you do these 3 C's, very likely you're going to end up avoiding the 2 things that are critical to avoid. All right, 3 C's. Lead with curiosity. Lead with curiosity. Gain clarity. And I apologize. For some reason, I got balloons on my screen. I don't know how that happened. And 3, be courteous. Another way I like to phrase that is to be tactful. Okay? Lead with curiosity. Gain clarity. Be courteous or tactful. Here's why these principles work. If you lead with curiosity, it opens both your mind to possibilities that you may not have been aware of. It also opens the other person's mind. If you ever talk to anybody with a closed mind, uh, my mom used to call that being hard-headed, right? You're just not thinking in any other way but your own, which means when somebody tries to express themselves, we we will hear the words, but what will come out is something that shows our closed-mindedness, and they are not going to feel like you really heard them, or vice versa. Okay. So that's why curiosity is really, really important. Curiosity is what allows us to summarize what they are saying. It allows us to hear their emotions and then label it, call it out, all because of being curious. Curiosity also aids in clarity. If we don't understand something, or if the other person doesn't understand something, we don't trust it. And we are likely not to put in the action to the best of our ability to things we don't understand or believe. And that's why clarity is so important, to avoid the misunderstandings. And tact, or being courteous during this discussion, is also important. We don't want to necessarily offend the other person, because then they would be turned off by us and then the message that we want to say. If you can apply those 3 things, those 3 principles, and whatever it is that you say and do, you can get along very well and how you communicate in any given situation. Now, what are these 3 things helping us to avoid? They're helping us to avoid the 2 things that when we say things, if we make people feel one or both of these things, it will absolutely kill the connection. And I don't care if you're on a date. I don't care if you're talking to your significant other, if you're talking to a coworker or to your boss or to your employee. You make them feel this way, one of these 2 things, it kills the connection that you'll have with them. Number 1 is shame, and number 2 is judgment. And just to be clear, again, that's one of the principles we talked about. Just to be clear, shame is the feeling of inadequacy, feeling less than. And judgment is things that are definitively right, wrong, good, or bad, Particularly in this instance, we don't want people to feel like they're bad or wrong. And the trick is, even if they are, if we are curious and we are trying to gain clarity, right? We are going to come in with an open mind, which is the opposite of judgment. And it's also, if we were going with the same three things of curiosity, clarity, and a courtesy or tactfulness, people are not going to feel less than. It is that simple. If you can wrap your brain around those 5 principles, you won't need a list of rules. Now, along the way, again, if it seems very simple, I encourage you to follow this podcast because every time there's a rule, you'll be able to see how it applies. And that way, you don't have to follow the rules in such a strict way. You will get to create the rules, and that's going to help you to, in any given situation, be seen, be heard, and find that connection with people so that you can get exactly what you need and want through the relationships that you have. As we come to the end of another episode of Attractive Relationships, I want to express my gratitude to you for tuning in. Your support really does mean the world to me. Now, if this episode brought you any value, I would truly appreciate it if you shared this podcast with anyone that you think could benefit from our discussions on effective communication and relationship building. Until next time, remember, great relationships start with great communication. So stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep building those attractive relationships.